To begin, Annette Smith is the founder and executive director of Vermonters for a Clean Environment, which for 20 years has been assisting Vermonters with having a voice in their communities and holding corporations accountable. Please welcome Annette Smith.
Thank you, and I appreciate that there's so much interest in this topic. I'm going to provide a foundation of where we are nationally and in Vermont regarding what we know about the deployment of 5G. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard the line that it's not coming to rural areas, it's only coming to urban areas. I had a legislator tell me that just now in the cafeteria. I'll tell you what Tom Wheeler, who was President Obama's chair of the FCC, said in 2016.
To plant orders, we must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole providence of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. A lot more intense setting decisions by local governments and take their shot clock for siting application reviews.
So for those of you who couldn't hear that, because I didn't get the speakers hooked up, he said we must reject the notion that 5G is only coming to urban areas, and it will be coming to every corner of the country. Could we have the lights so it would be helpful? So that was June of 2016. In November of 2017, Governor Scott opted in to Vermont to the federal First Step program that puts AT&T in charge of emergency responder network. 22 new towers are planned, and that's the red in here, leading to deployment of 5G. It could have been done through the state and not turned over to industry, but at the Regional Planning Commission I attended where AT&T was present, I asked when they were presenting about a new tower in Benson, does this have anything to do with the deployment of 5G? And he said, ultimately, yes. Now, the other thing that we hear is that this may help rural broadband. So we have a statement from Michigan Senator Patrick Colbert, who is an expert in EMF technology, and he's a techie, and I'll play it, and it's short.
We dispel that right off the gate. Number one, a lot of people apparently have been told that this is something that's going to help out with rural broadband, and I think one of the testimony, to Senator Young's credit, he identified that this is not going to help with rural broadband deployment at all. And
it's not going to help with rural broadband deployment at all. In September, the Public Utility Commission, this is last year, revised Section 248A to allow antennas that are swapped out on existing towers and in existing places to be considered de minimis. And since then, we've seen a flurry of applications and approvals of towers. There's several of them we've seen just in Brattleboro, going from whatever is there now being upgraded. And when you actually read the orders, it's about the size and the shape and things like that. But it doesn't really reference the technology itself. In December of 2018, Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, who was the Connecticut Attorney General for 20 years, held a press briefing in which he publicly asked the FCC to produce the studies showing 5G is safe. In January of 2019, the Vermont Department of Public Service petitioned the Public Utility Commission to open a rulemaking to update the pole attachment rule to include Make Ready, which is being pushed by the industry throughout the country. And these are the states that have adopted it. Pennsylvania's legislature in September of last year actually refused to move that bill out of committee. So there are states that are not just going along with the industry, but so far, Vermont is on track to adopt Make Ready and turn our state into a red. And I was also told by a legislator just now in the cafeteria that Make Ready isn't about deployment of cell towers, or excuse me, of 5G antennas. In February of 2019, the Senate Finance Committee here in this building heard testimony from AT&T, Verizon, and VTEL, and they were asked to come in based on the reactions, or the information that they've been getting from constituents, and so they called them in to say, what's the status of 5G? And I happened to be in the building, and I happened to hear the testimony. And what the chair summed it up was, well, so 5G is not coming to Vermont anytime soon. Now, the Department of Public Service Telecom staff person, Corey Chase, was in the room, and he followed me out. I've never talked to the man. And he told me I shouldn't talk about 5G because it's not a defined spectrum. He told me that we shouldn't talk about the health effects because that's preempted by federal law. He also told me this bill is just about fiber, and he repeatedly told me not to talk about 5G and not to talk about the health effects. It was one of the more surreal conversations I had with the state agency person. In February 2019 of this year, at a congressional hearing, Connecticut Senator Blumenthal asked the industry representatives about the money that's been spent by the industry to study the health effects of 5G. The response was, no money has been spent by the industry to study the health effects of 5G. In March, CTIA, that's this year, March 8th, CTIA, the wireless industry group, submitted comments to the Public Utility Commission in the pole attachment rulemaking. And they talk about how much money and how many jobs 5G will bring to Vermont. They mentioned Burlington, St. Johnsbury, and Montpelier. And they noted that the Make Ready update in Rule 3.700 is important to the deployment of 5G. In March of 2019, RCR Wireless News reports FirstNet is AT&T's springboard to 5G. Remember back the agreement that Governor Scott signed in 2017, these new towers, that's their springboard to 5G. The CFO of AT&T, John Stevens, is quoted in this industry article. We're putting all this in place at once and getting a step function above the LTE that we had and evolving it toward 5G at the same time. Stevens said, noting that the equipment AT&T is using is 5G upgradable via software, and towers will not need to be climbed again to enable the upgrade. In April of 2019, the Senate Finance Committee took up H513, which is now in the Senate, and they are taking it up again this afternoon. They have 10 witnesses scheduled for an hour. And this bill is already passed out of the House Committee of Energy and Technology and the full House. Section 19 contains a directive to the PUC to update the pole attachment rule 3.700 and adopt Make Ready by the end of the year. Nowhere does the bill mention 5G. In April of 2019, also, the New Hampshire legislature has passed a bill out of the House Science, Technology, and Energy Committee and the full House in New Hampshire, creating a committee to look into the health issues surrounding 5G. On Tuesday, the Senate Health and Human Services Committee took more testimony on this. So New Hampshire's legislature is actually listening. They're concerned. They're talking about setting up a summer study committee. So in Vermont, power pole upgrades, new LED streetlights, and tree cutting are being observed, all possibly in preparation for 5G. This is in Bethel. I took that last Friday. It's pole heaven now in Bethel. And there's your LED streetlight. And all of this, all these pieces of the puzzle, turns out, are being put in place without any public process. No notification will be required, no changes to rules, it's already, it's coming. Aside from the Make Ready. Numerous lawsuits have been filed by cities against the FCC. This is last Friday, when I was in the building testifying about H513, and you can read my testimony on the website, which includes the CTIA filing. I came home and I had the evening news on, and this is what I saw. President Trump is announcing $20 billion to deploy 5G specifically in rural areas of the United States. So our citizen legislature has the responsibility to protect the health and safety of Vermonters, and we ask them to prove 5G is safe first before it is installed, apply the precautionary principle, and our job is to educate and inform. So thank you, and with that,
Thank you.